The starship's celestial horizon drifted silently through the endless black of space, its cargo holds filled with rare trade goods from the outer colonies. Jae-hwan Park stood at the bridge, his weathered hands steady on the control panel. He had crossed this particular trade route dozens of times, each journey blending into the next like stars stretching into infinite lines. Nothing about this trip suggested anything would be different, until the alien ship appeared. It materialized without warning, cutting through the darkness with a sleek, crystalline hull that seemed to shimmer and bend light around its edges. Jae-hwan's communication systems lit up with an incoming transmission. He adjusted his worn leather jacket and cleared his throat. The holographic display flickered to life, revealing a creature unlike any human he had encountered before. It was tall and slender, with skin that looked like polished obsidian and eyes that seemed to change color with each passing second. Membranous tendrils moved around its head like living shadows. Human trade vessel, the alien spoke, its voice a strange mixture of clicks and smooth tones. You are entering restricted communication zones of the Vortex Collective. Jae-hwan raised an eyebrow. He had heard whispers about the Vortex Collective, an advanced species known for their complex diplomatic protocols and rigid social structures. But whispers were just whispers, and he was a trader first and foremost. This is an established trade route, he responded calmly. I have all necessary clearance documents. Check your records. The alien's eyes shifted from deep purple to a cold silver. We are aware of your documentation. However, recent Galactic Council amendments require additional verification. Something in the creature's tone made the hair on Jae-hwan's neck stand up. He had been in space long enough to recognize when something didn't feel right. His fingers unconsciously moved closer to the emergency communication array. The alien continued, its voice gaining an edge of something Jae-hwan couldn't quite define. Was it excitement? Anticipation? We require a sample of your current cargo. Specifically, your stored beverages. Jae-hwan's cargo manifest included several crates of rare Martian wine, a delicacy that fetched high prices in the outer rim markets. Each bottle was carefully preserved, a testament to decades of careful cultivation in the harsh Martian greenhouse colonies. Standard inspection protocols, the alien added, require a full chemical analysis. Something about the request felt wrong. Jae-hwan had dealt with countless alien species during his trading career, and this felt different. The alien's gaze seemed to hold more than a simple bureaucratic request. And if I refuse? Jae-hwan asked, keeping his voice neutral. The alien's form seemed to ripple, its obsidian skin catching light in strange, hypnotic patterns. Refusal would be unwise. In that moment, Jae-hwan understood he was witnessing something more than a routine trade inspection. The Vortex Collective was playing a game, and he was about to find out the rules. Little did the aliens know, humans had been playing their own games for centuries, and Jae-hwan Park was about to show them how it was done. Deep within the crystal chambers of the Vortex Collective's central research complex, Carol Vex studied the final preparations of their most delicate weapon. The neural toxin glimmered like liquid mercury, suspended in a precision-engineered container that could pass through any standard galactic trade inspection. Rena Kim would never know what was coming. The toxin had taken decades to develop. It was designed to target the specific neural pathways of human biology, pathways the Vortex Collective believed were weak and vulnerable. Their scientists had spent years studying human genetic records, medical histories, and biological samples collected from various interstellar trading posts. The molecular structure is perfect, muttered Dr. Zara, the lead xenobiological researcher. Her tentacle-like appendages moved carefully around the toxin's containment unit, undetectable, untraceable, completely fatal to human physiology. Chiral Vex allowed himself a moment of satisfaction. The Vortex Collective had long viewed humans as a primitive species, chaotic, unpredictable, and ultimately inconsequential in the grand design of galactic civilization. Their rapid expansion into space seemed more like an accident of evolution than a deliberate achievement. The plan was simple: The neural toxin would be introduced through the wine shipments, a commodity humans seemed to value far beyond its actual nutritional worth. Martian wine was particularly prized, and trade routes were predictable. Their agents had already identified the exact shipments that would carry the contaminated samples. Activation trigger is set to molecular body temperature, Dr. Zora continued. Once the liquid passes human lips, it will activate within milliseconds. The neural breakdown will be swift and complete. Chiral Vex nodded. The Vortex Collective had multiple reasons for this calculated elimination. Humans were becoming too aggressive in their territorial claims. Their trading networks were expanding too quickly. Their diplomatic unpredictability was becoming a genuine concern for more established galactic civilizations. This was not just an assassination. It was population control. In the sterile research chamber, holographic displays showed detailed simulations of human neural systems. Hundreds of test models demonstrated the toxin's projected effectiveness. Each simulation ended the same way. Total systemic failure within seconds of exposure. The wine shipments from the Martian colonies are perfect vectors, Dr. Zora explained. Their specific fermentation process creates ideal conditions for toxin suspension. The alcohol will mask any potential chemical variations. Chiral Vex reviewed the final reports. Every detail had been calculated. Every possibility had been modeled. The human trader J1 Park and countless others would become unwitting carriers of their own destruction. What the Vortex Collective did not know was that humans had survived far worse than anything their scientists could imagine. The toxin was just another challenge waiting to be confronted, and Rena Kim was about to become their first line of defense. In another part of the galaxy, aboard a sleek research vessel, Rena Kim reviewed her own set of data. Something about the recent communication logs from the Vortex Collective Trade Inspection felt wrong. Her fingers moved across holographic displays, pulling together fragments of information that most would consider unconnected. She didn't know it yet, but she was about to uncover a plot that would change everything. The first shipment arrived precisely as planned. Thousands of carefully prepared wine bottles, each containing the Vortex Collective's deadly neural toxin, were distributed across multiple human trading posts and space stations. Sung Min Lee sat in his molecular research lab when the first reports came in. He frowned at the data streams scrolling across his holographic displays. Something was very wrong, or perhaps very unexpected. The toxin was supposed to cause immediate and total neural collapse. Instead, the reports showed something entirely different. Survivors. Not just a few. Hundreds of humans who had consumed the contaminated wine were reporting nothing more than a mild headache. Some even described the wine as having an interesting aftertaste. In the Vortex Collective's main research center, panic was beginning to spread. "This is impossible," Dr. Zora screamed, throwing holographic data models across the room. Her tentacle-like appendages trembled with frustration. The molecular design was perfect. Absolutely perfect. Chiral Vex studied the incoming reports with growing concern. Humans were not just surviving. They seemed almost amused by the attempted attack. Trading posts were reporting strange conversations where humans joked about the weird-tasting wine and compared it to other substances they had encountered. One report caught Sung Min Lee's attention. A group of miners from the Europa colonies had not only survived the toxin, but had continued their work shift without interruption. Their medical scans showed no signs of neural damage. "This requires immediate investigation," Sung Min muttered to himself. He began pulling historical medical records, genetic profiles, and environmental adaptation studies of human colonists. Humans had spread across dozens of harsh planetary environments. Radioactive moons, high-gravity worlds, planets with toxic atmospheres. Each environment had forced human biology to adapt in ways no other species could comprehend. The toxin that was supposed to kill now looked like nothing more than an interesting chemical experiment. On communication channels across human territories, a new joke was spreading. "The aliens tried to poison our wine. Wait until they hear about our college parties." Sung Min discovered something fascinating. Generations of space colonization, genetic modifications, and survival in extreme environments had fundamentally changed human biochemistry. What the Vortex Collective saw as a weakness was actually an incredible strength. The neural pathways that the aliens had so carefully studied were not vulnerable. They were revolutionary. Back in the Vortex Collective's research center, Carol Vex realized they had made a terrible mistake. Humans were not just another species to be controlled or eliminated. They were something entirely different. And this was just the beginning. Sung-Min Lee prepared his initial report. The title was simple and direct: Unexpected Human Resistance, a Preliminary Analysis. The galaxy was about to learn that humans were far more complex than anyone had ever imagined. The diplomatic chamber was silent when Hai-Jin Choi entered. Holographic displays flickered with tension, showing representatives from the Vortex Collective and human diplomatic corps. Everyone knew what had happened. The failed poisoning attempt was now an open secret across multiple star systems. Chiral Vex sat rigid, his obsidian skin looking more like a shell than ever before. The alien's color-shifting eyes now seemed stuck in a dull gray of confusion and frustration. "Explain," Hai-Jin said simply. The translation systems caught the weight of her single word. It wasn't a request. It was a demand. Chiral Vex attempted to speak, but words seemed to fail. How could they explain their fundamental misunderstanding of human biology? How could they describe their belief that humans were a species to be controlled? "We believed," he finally said, "that your species was unstable, dangerous, unpredictable." Hai-Jin's laugh was sharp and unexpected. It cut through the diplomatic tension like a blade. "We are all of those things," she responded, "but not in the way you think." She began to tell a story. Not a diplomatic report, but a narrative that would make the Vortex Collective understand humans in a way their scientific models never could. She spoke of human colonies on radiation-soaked moons, of miners working in atmospheres that would dissolve alien skin in seconds, of medical teams that developed vaccines faster than any known civilization, of people who survived not just by technology, but by an impossible combination of stubbornness and adaptability. "You studied our biology," Hai-Jin said, "but you never understood our history." She described generations of humans who had been forced to adapt. People who escaped dying planets, colonists who transformed toxic environments into homes, survivors who saw every challenge as something to be conquered, not avoided. The Vortex Collective had run mathematical models. They had studied genetic sequences. They had believed science could predict human behavior. They were wrong. Humans were not a species that could be controlled. They were a species that turned limitations into opportunities. Chiral Vex realized something profound in that moment. The neural toxin was not just a failed weapon. It was a test, and humans had passed in a way no one could have predicted. "We misunderstood," Chiral Vex admitted. The words seemed to pain him. Hai-Jin's response was unexpected. "Good," she said. "Understanding is the first step to something better." Outside the diplomatic chamber, the stars continued their silent dance. Millions of human colonists went about their daily lives, completely unaware of how close they had come to a potential extinction, and how they had survived through nothing more than their own remarkable nature. The galaxy had just learned an important lesson about humanity. And this was only the beginning. Jae-Hwan Park stood in the research lab, watching as Sung-Min Lee arranged holographic displays of human genetic data. The story of human survival was written in their DNA, a language more complex than any alien civilization could understand. "Look here," Sung-Min said, pointing to a swirling molecular model. "This is why the toxin failed." The hologram showed layers of genetic modifications, adaptive markers, and molecular structures that looked more like intricate machinery than biological code. Humans were not just a species. They were a continuously evolving system. Generations of space colonization had transformed human biology. Each new environment had been a test, each challenge a chance to rewrite their own genetic potential. Some men explained how humans from different colonies had developed unique adaptations, Miners on high radiation moons had modified cellular repair mechanisms. Deep space colonists had enhanced metabolic flexibility. Settlers on high-gravity worlds had restructured their muscle and bone systems. The Vortex Collective had studied human genetics like a static document. But human DNA was a living, breathing algorithm of survival. We didn't just adapt, Sung Min said. We redesigned ourselves. The neural toxin was just one more challenge in a long history of survival. Humans had faced radiation, toxic atmospheres, extreme temperatures, and now, attempted biological warfare. Each challenge was met not with fear, but with innovation. Genetic records showed how quickly humans could modify their own biology. What would take other species thousands of generations happened in mere decades for humans. Their medical technologies, combined with a ruthless drive to survive, made them something entirely unique. Jae-won understood something the Vortex Collective did not. Humans were not just a species. They were a concept, an idea of survival that refused to be limited by biology, environment, or external threats. The research revealed layers of complexity. Humans had developed neural network modifications that could rapidly identify and neutralize foreign chemical agents. Their immune systems were not just defensive, they were adaptive learning systems. The toxin, Sung Min explained, was processed and neutralized before it could cause any real damage. Our bodies saw it as just another challenge to be solved. Outside the research station, space continued its silent expansion. Millions of human colonies continued their daily lives, each one a testament to an impossible ability to transform and survive. The Vortex Collective had made a critical mistake. They had viewed humans as a problem to be eliminated. Instead, they had discovered a species that saw every limitation as an opportunity for growth. Jae-won looked at the genetic displays and smiled. Humans were not just survivors. They were architects of their own evolution. Rena Kim sat at the head of the negotiation table, her eyes locked on the Vortex Collective representatives. The room was silent, charged with a tension that could cut through steel. "You attempted to poison an entire species," she began. No introduction, no pleasantries. Chiral Vex shifted uncomfortably. The humans' direct approach was unlike any diplomatic interaction they had experienced before. Rena placed a data crystal on the table. It contained everything. Detailed chemical analyses of the toxin, genetic research showing human adaptability, complete records of the attempted attack. But this was more than evidence. It was a weapon. "We could destroy you diplomatically," Rena said, completely and utterly. The Vortex Collective knew what she meant. Galactic diplomatic networks relied on trust. One comprehensive report could cut off the Vortex Collective from trade routes, communication channels, and collaborative research programs. But humans were not interested in simple revenge. Instead, Rena continued, "We offer a choice." She outlined a proposal that would become legendary in diplomatic circles. The Vortex Collective would provide advanced medical research funding to human colonies. They would support human expansion projects. They would publicly acknowledge their misconception about human capabilities. The price of their mistake would be cooperation. Chiral Vex understood the brilliance of the approach. Humans were not seeking punishment. They were demanding growth, transformation. Outside the negotiation chamber, human representatives from dozens of colonies waited. Each one represented a different story of survival, each one a testament to human resilience. The Vortex Collective had tried to eliminate humans. Now they would help humans expand. Rena Kim's smile was sharp. This was not just a negotiation. This was a demonstration of human potential. The galaxy was watching. Sung Min Lee pressed a single button. Billions of holographic displays across multiple star systems lit up simultaneously. The full report of the Vortex Collective's failed poisoning attempt became universal knowledge. Every detail was exposed. The carefully designed neural toxin, the planned extinction attempt, the complete and total failure. Nothing was hidden. Galactic news networks went wild. Species from hundreds of different worlds watched in shock as humans revealed not just the attack, but their remarkable survival. Holographic recordings showed Vortex Collective scientists explaining their toxic weapon. Next to these recordings were human medical reports demonstrating how the toxin had been neutralized within minutes of exposure. The most watched segment was a brief interview with a human miner who had unknowingly consumed the poisoned wine. "Weird taste," he said casually. "Reminded me of that cheap alcohol we drink during mining shift celebrations." Diplomatic channels erupted. The Vortex Collective found themselves completely isolated. Their attempt to control humans had backfired in the most spectacular way possible. Other galactic civilizations watched with a mixture of horror and fascination. Humans were not just surviving. They were turning an assassination attempt into a global demonstration of their capabilities. Research institutions across multiple star systems began requesting access to human genetic and medical data. What made humans so uniquely adaptable? How could they survive what would kill other species? The Vortex Collective's reputation collapsed. Their scientific models, once considered absolute, were now viewed as fundamentally flawed. Their understanding of biological systems was exposed as limited and narrow. Sung-Min Lee knew exactly what he was doing. This was not just about revealing an attack. This was about changing how the galaxy understood humanity. Trade routes that once avoided human colonies now sought them out. Species that had previously viewed humans as chaotic and unpredictable now saw them as potential allies and partners. The great humiliation of the Vortex Collective became a turning point in galactic history. Humans had not just survived. They had transformed a potential extinction event into a moment of global recognition. The galaxy would never be the same. Hai-Jin Choi watched as the first Vortex Collective researchers arrived at the Human Research Station. They looked different now. Less rigid, more curious. The failed poisoning attempt had changed everything. Some Vortex Collective members had begun to see humans differently. No longer a species to be controlled, but one to be understood. Their scientific teams were now requesting collaborative research projects, eager to learn about human adaptability. One young Vortex researcher approached Hai-Jin. His obsidian skin rippled with what seemed like genuine excitement. "We want to understand," he said. "How do you survive?" Hai-Jin smiled. Survival was more than a biological process for humans. It was a philosophy. She took the researcher on a tour of the research station. Each section told a story of human adaptation. Genetic modification labs showed how humans rebuilt their own biology. Medical research centers demonstrated rapid response technologies. Engineering sections revealed solutions to problems other species would consider impossible. The Vortex Collective was learning a crucial lesson. Humans were not a problem to be solved. They were a possibility to be explored. Collaborative research began to produce remarkable results. Human medical technologies combined with Vortex Collective computational models created breakthroughs in genetic science. Their different approaches, once in conflict, now generated incredible innovations. The galaxy watched as former enemies became partners. Some Vortex Collective members began requesting transfer to human research programs. They wanted to learn, to understand, to see the world through a different lens. Hai-Jin understood the deeper meaning. This was more than scientific cooperation. This was a fundamental shift in how different species could interact. Humanity had not just survived an attack. They had transformed a potential conflict into an opportunity for growth. The stars seemed to shine a little brighter that day. Years after the poisoning attempt, the galaxy looked different. Jae-Hwan Park stood on the observation deck of a joint human vortex research vessel. The stars stretched out before him, a canvas of infinite possibilities. Behind him, researchers from two species worked side by side. A sight that would have been impossible just years before. The attempted poisoning had become a turning point. Rena Kim's genetic research teams had transformed entire fields of xenobiology. Sung-Min Lee's adaptive technology projects were now standard across multiple civilizations. Hai-Jin Choi had become a legendary diplomatic strategist, teaching how conflict could become cooperation. What the Vortex Collective had seen as a weakness in humans, Their unpredictability, their constant adaptation, was now recognized as their greatest strength. Humans had not just survived. They had redefined what survival meant. Colonies spread across impossible environments. Medical technologies that could rebuild entire biological systems. Communication networks that connected species in ways never before imagined. Each human settlement was a testament to the idea that limitations were just challenges waiting to be solved. The wine that was meant to kill had become a symbol of something else entirely. Resilience, adaptation, hope. Chiral Vex, now a lead researcher in collaborative xenoscience, approached Jadwan. The alien skin no longer seemed threatening. It looked more like a map of experiences, of learning. "We misunderstood," Chiral Vex said simply. Jadwan smiled. Some truths were best understood through experience, not words. The research vessel continued its journey. Humans and Vortex Collective members worked together, their differences becoming their greatest strength. Outside, the universe continued its endless dance, waiting to see what would come next.